off your engine!
Maya Brown says, new buyer. Found a 2013 Honda Civic, 120,000 miles. Service maintenance done to be 5,000 miles. The dealer wants $7,800. We're talking about an 8-year-old Honda with 120,000 miles. There's no way I'd pay $7,800 for that. That's highway robbery. That's the reason you never go to a dealer to buy a used car. They generally charge 2 to 3 times what they paid for them on trade-in. That's just the way that it goes. They're good cars. If you don't mind the money, go ahead, but I'd look elsewhere myself. No way would I pay $7,800. Civic that had 120,000 miles on it. If you don't mind it, they're good cars, but still, don't trust the dealer. You still want to pay a guy like me, an independent mechanic, to check it out before you buy it. You can't trust anybody these days when you're buying a used car. But if it checks out, you don't mind the price, it's your money. I personally would not pay that much money for a vehicle with that mileage that's 9 years old. Riley Dixon says, Scotty, I got an '08 Ford Escape 3.0 XLT with 244,000 miles. Needs struts, a transmission mount. Should I get a new car? Yeah, it's pretty well worn up, but I mean, struts and a transmission mount. If you don't mind it bouncing and clunking a little bit and it still runs, hey, why not use it as a rat car and just drive it around until it completely breaks and then won't go on its own, then get another car. But you're going to get nothing if you sell that. Trade-in value is maybe $500 or something. You're going to get nothing for it, so what the heck? Maybe get a new car and keep it as a knockaround car. A lot of guys do that. I got a lot of customers that have a nice newer car, and then they got an old junker. That's their old junker. They'll take it to the junkyard when they're picking up parts or selling stuff, or they'll use it to move dirt and plants with. What the heck? If it still runs, you're not going to get anything for it. Realize that. The Pro Luisa, Scotty, what do you think of the newer Chevy Malibus? Not much. Now, they made Malibus when I was young, and they were the bee's knees. Everybody wanted a Malibu with a V8 sport package. I mean, they were nice cars. But GMs have been going downhill for decades, and they're not, from what I read, they're not going to be making those things anymore anyways. They're going to stop making them, and the quality is... Now, if you're thinking about buying one, by all means, at least get the V6 engine. Do not buy one with the 4-cylinder engine. They are absolutely horrendous machines. But on the positive side, you can get used ones cheap because they have no resale value. If you could find one from, say, an older person that can't drive anymore, or an estate sale and it's got 10,000 miles on it, and get it cheap, what the heck? You can get any kind of car like that, but yeah, you're talking about one that's got 100,000 miles or more, run away. Don't even think about buying it. By the Dutch Dude 1992 says, why do some cars have only one reverse light? Because it's cheaper to make them that way. That's just all it comes down to. There's laws that they have to have a backup light, but it doesn't say how many. That's why they only have one. I've been in cars that don't even have turn signal indicators inside the car. When you flip it, you hear nothing, you see nothing, but they're working outside. You know, and some cars are so cheaply made, they don't have a temperature gauge. They just have an idiot light. It's just because they can make them cheaper that way. They want to make them as cheap as they possibly can, and that's why they only have one reverse light. They have to go by the law, but whatever the law is, if it says you need a reverse light, but you only need one, they'll put one on. It's cheaper. At least I think if they're going to do that, they should put it in the middle of the back, you know. I've seen some of them, they're on the side and only one side has them. If they're going to put it in the middle, okay. If it's big enough and it's in the middle, that's all right by me. Edward says, Scotty, what are your thoughts of the 4.6 V8 Toyota Tundra? They're great trucks. They can run a really long time. Now, they're not easy to work on when they finally do break. You got to pull the intake manifold to change the starter, and the axle bearings on the back, when they wear out, they're special weirdo pressed-in axle that you got to have a special machine press with special pieces to fit in to press them in and out. And I've seen more guys screw up replacing the axle bearings on those. They put them on wrong, and then a few months later they break again. You got to pay a real pro to change those things out. But they're solid built trucks. They can last a really, really, really long time. They're well made. There's no if, ands, or buts. Titanium 666 says, Scotty, what's the highest speed you ever reached? 206 miles an hour. And that was flying, let me tell you. It was out in the middle of nowhere. There wasn't anybody around. It was a Shelby Cobra GT 500 that was specially modified. Man, that thing flew. But at that speed, it only went 12 miles before it ran out of gasoline. So you couldn't drive it that fast for very long. The real fastest speed I've ever gone is just in a commercial jet, you know. They go pretty fast, 400 something miles an hour, you know, but they're up in the air. They're not down on the ground on wheels. Unknown process. Scotty, would you get an '07 Lexus IS 250 or 2014 Yaris? Well, I get the Lexus because I like Lexus. They're good. My wife loves them. The Yaris's are economy cars. I got customers with them that have, 160,000 miles, but they bounce, rattle. They're not that comfortable. If you want an inner city car, go ahead and get a Yaris. It's cheaper to run, cheaper to fix, but if you're going to do a lot of driving, especially on a highway, you'll be a lot more comfortable in a Lexus than you are in that little motorboat engine Yaris that's going to feel every bump on the road when you hit them. Jeremy Coates says, Scotty, I got a 2018 Honda Civic 1.5, 60,000 kilometers. When the car's cold and I let the clutch in first gear, the whole car shakes uncomfortably. All right, well, you got 62,000 kilometers. I don't know if you're the original owner, but whoever's been driving is rough on the clutch. It needs a new clutch and a flywheel. That's what happens when they wear out. If somebody either beat it or didn't know how to drive or learned how to drive a standard in that car, and they really beat the clutch, you need a clutch and a flywheel. That's what I'd change. Or if you don't care, it's not going to hurt anything, but you're going to need a clutch and a flywheel because they shake like that when they're cold, when they're worn out. That's just the way that it goes. Reed Wood said, what is the best first car under $10,000? Well, if you're talking new, you don't have much choice. You have to order those Chinese cars they just started importing in the United States. But if you're talking a used car, it depends on what you want. A Corolla can last forever. A Camry rides a lot nicer, and it can last forever. You want a zippy little car, a little Honda Civic, if you look around price-wise. I'd stick to Japanese because they have the longest lifespan. And if you don't know much about cars, you're much better off with them than you are with a car that you got to do a lot of maintenance and understand how to fix it yourself if you don't have the money to pay for repairs. But you can't beat the Toyotas for the money if you can find one in that price range that you like. Louis says, Scotty, my 2012 Lexus ES has a power steering fluid reservoir. I can't fit a turkey baster in it. How do I change the fluid? Well, get a smaller tube and you can fit it on and use the turkey baster. Or you can do what I do. I have vacuum pumps. And you can put whatever size tube you want on them, and then it'll just suck it out. And truthfully, you can even use a pump from a aquarium, those cheap little aquarium pumps. They're good enough to suck the stuff out. And they don't cost much, and they got pretty small diameter pipes that you could stick the tube in through. You can always keep making it smaller and smaller tube until you get one that fits, and then tape them all together. It'll suck it out. It's not rocket science. J. Bear Blink says, General tires, are they good or bad? I've had a set in my life, and they were okay tires. They weren't fantastic, but they weren't junk. What you want to do with tires is find out where they're made. And numero uno, if they say they're made in China or someplace like that, don't buy them, because generally they're lower quality tires. But if they're made in the United States, Canada, Europe, places, they can be excellent tires. You got to see where the tire is made. And just personally, I don't buy tires from China because once I accidentally did. I didn't know they were made in China, and they kept going flat on my wife's Cressida because they were just cheaply made tires. So I don't want cheap tires. I want tires that are going to last. Decent tires, but you got to see where they're made, because companies are always buying other companies, and then they're selling other companies' tires rebranded as there. So see where they're made. It has to say somewhere in a tire where they were made. Daniel DeLuca says, Scotty, are Italian cars made in Italy reliable? No. What do you think? The Europeans, they drive a lot of Japanese cars and some German cars too, Volkswagens, but they don't drive that many Italian cars around because they're not stupid people. They want to keep their money. The Europeans aren't like the Americans. They don't have as much disposable income as we have in the United States. So they're tighter with their money, and they're not going to waste it on a car that doesn't last. So you check out Italian car sales. In Europe, they're not that high either because they've wised up and realized they aren't that reliable. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.